Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at race number 7 at Santa Anita on Sunday. It's the Grade 2 John Henry Turf Championship. We're going a mile and a quarter for $200,000. Let's take a peek at this field. And Ashley, we were talking before we came on air. I think you can make a case for all 8 of these horses. It should be a good betting race. Gold Phoenix might be the horse to beat considering the form he's in right now.
Yeah, he's in top form, but a lot of horses in here are going to cut back in distance. A few are going to stretch out, and I think in the case of a lot of them, a mile and a quarter might be that sweet spot. So a field of 8, it's a decent sized field, but I think it's competitive top to bottom.
And there's a little bit of speed in this race as well. As we throw up that time form US pace projector, the 4 Balladeer is very fast. Master of Foxhounds wired this field, this race last year. He's probably going to be forward from the inside post. So I think everyone should at least have a fair shot with the number 6 having the fastest time form US late pace rating. That's Speaking Scout, who will be a price.
He will be a price in here, and he's a horse that he's been able to fly from the back of the pack at shorter distances, and if there is the pace setup in here, you would think the added ground might help him.
I am Master of Foxhounds' biggest fan. The problem with Master of Foxhounds is he doesn't win very often. He did win this race last year when on the lead. I'm just not sure he's as fast as Balladeer. He's going to work out his trip. He's going to show up with a good, honest effort. The question is always about price. You must demand value with this horse.
You have to. I mean, he's just that, like, as you've mentioned, a horse that's inconsistent. If you look at 2023 and 2022 combined, he's 1 for 12. Yes, he's made a lot of money. He's just, in that around $375,000 or so, but it's tough. It's also tough when horses such as Awfully Naughty, Gold Phoenix have beaten him time and time again. But I will say, I liked that off the layoff from that April 8th race at Santa Anita to the race in July. He went a mile and an eighth. He did cut back in distance. I like him stretching back out from a fitness angle. And he's had steady work. So Phil D'Amato does a good job. But for me, he's kind of a little tough necessarily to endorse on the top spot just against a deep field.
Earlier this year, a case could be made that the 2 Awfully Naughty was the best longer distance turf horse in Southern California. He swept through the Whittingham and the San Luis Rey. He ran just fine in the San Juan Capistrano. No match for Planetario, but he had a little bit of trouble. His most recent start, the Del Mar Handicap, I thought was a perfect prep for this race because he was so far behind and he made this big 5-wide mid-race move to get into contention turning for home before flattening out. For his first start off a short layoff, I think it was a good prep for this race. Now he has to prove, is he a second season graded stakes type?
We'll find out. I wonder too if the span of races in the spring and early summer, it just was a tough campaign, right? They were asking him to go further each and every single start, and he was still performing well. They've regrouped in the past. We saw that at the end of 2022 to his first race in April, and it worked out well. And I agree. I think the last race was a good building block for him. He was pretty far back. He's still advanced in the stretch, and I think he should be sort of better than he was last time out. He's certainly a horse that can improve second off the layoff.
I could go either way with the number 3 Planetario, who beat Awfully Naughty using good tactical speed in the San Juan Capistrano. I went back and I've watched the United Nations about 100 times since the race was run, and I just think that race wasn't run to suit him, where they started sprinting home at about the half-mile pole, and I think he's more of a grinding type that isn't ready for that instant burst of acceleration. I just wish I liked his last race better.
You stole my thunder because I am in the same boat about the race at Monmouth. Just watching how it unfolded, I don't think it suited him well. I thought he would have rebounded. I actually did not like his effort last time out. I thought he was pretty flat in the end. Maybe that's a reason now they are going to cut him back from a mile and 3/8 to a mile and a quarter. But this is a horse who we saw relish distances of a mile and a half and a mile and 3/4. So I'm still not sure he necessarily wants to go this short, but maybe it is a regrouping tactic by the Mandela barn after 2 somewhat dull efforts, one that I don't think you can make excuses for.
Although the number 4 Balladeer is stepping up into the stakes ranks for the first time in his 18-race career, he is in the form of his life, and it just seems like longer distances on the turf is his niche. Let's watch his last race. Second level allowance at Kentucky Downs. He was able to get to a nice, easy lead, but this is a long straight. Everybody's got a shot at Balladeer, and he never lets them into the race.
He does, and I thought Florent Giroux gave this horse a really good ride. As we know, Kentucky Downs is a little different, and it's a really tough track in general, just with so much purse money on the line. Everyone wants to run there, but look at this horse. I mean, he starts finding another gear, and no one's really moving. I mean, there's a couple of horses maybe making up some ground, but they're not making up ground on him. They're trying to compete for the minors. So he had to stretch out in distance. I do think it was probably a little bit of a step up in class, just knowing the circuit and how that plays. His numbers improved. Now the question is, he's getting back out to California. What's going to happen out there against this level of competition? And does anyone press him in here? That's the big thing. I think if he gets lonely for some reason, he could be very dangerous.
After winning 5 races in a row, the number 5, yes, this time has not won a race in over 2 years. I still think he can step a little bit. Let's watch his last race, the Lure, his first race off of the Peter Miller Claim. He turns into the stretch at Kentucky Downs in the restricted Tapit Stakes, and he's in with a pretty big look, and he stays on to finish third. This is at a much shorter distance. They're going to try to stretch him out to 1.25 miles, and to me, that's really the biggest question for him.
It is a big question. Obviously, Harlan Estate was a big price in here, but the runner-up English Fee is a nice little racehorse who's done well in his career. And, his last several efforts, I mean, he's fired off some really big numbers, but he's not winning. That's always a little bit of a red flag to me. I think if you're an exotics better and he's the right price, sure, you can use him underneath. And he's been, pretty true to that, even in his races when we go back to April and May. But as you've mentioned, it's a long time since we saw him in peak form, and it was at the beginning of his career.
Consistent without winning, a lot of good races on soft turf. Not going to get that at Santa Anita on Sunday. Speaking Scouts, another horse shipping west, this one for trainer Graham Motion. He was 5th in the race we just saw, the Tapit. Maybe didn't have the most ideal trip in that race. He has shipped to Southern California in the past with great success. He won the Hollywood Derby last year.
And they've shipped him all over this year. Look at the tracks that he's been at between Kentucky and the Mid-Atlantic, everywhere in between. He is 0 for 6 on the year. He will need some pace to run out, but I also wonder what the tactics will be going further. We look at these races, mile and 70 yards, a mile and an eighth. He's yet to go this far in quite some time, and I think that might be a difference maker. He does have a really nice win under his belt at the distance, or a comparable distance at least, but another one that hasn't found the winner's circle in quite some time.
Here's the 7 Gold Phoenix, who dominated them during the Del Mar Summer Meet, a win in the Eddie Reed. Here's his score in the Del Mar Handicap. And Hernandez just waited, and the hole opened up, and this horse shot right on through. And once he saw daylight, it is all over.
And he was stretching out. He had to go another 1/4 mile in this race. He was further back than we saw him in the Eddie Reed. And I thought the trip that he got was fantastic. I like a horse like him going from 1 3/8 miles to 1.25 miles. And I think we talked about this going through the slate. He's arguably the one to beat in this spot. I think anything close to either of those performances is a winning one.
Cash Equity stretched out for the first time in the Del Mar Handicap, and while no match for Gold Phoenix, he acquitted himself well enough. He's another horse. He needs pace. He comes from far back, but he was stopped for a brief second turning into the stretch. He did get a hole, and he fired on at the end. It seems like he's improving. I am worried that he's a bit pace and trip dependent.
I would agree with that. I think maybe it comes down to pace in here. I just wonder if he's also just getting good at the right time. I liked his performance last time out. Another one that I will say, going from 1 3/8 to 1.25 miles. I like him in this spot, but he typically has 1 or 2 horses beaten early on, and that could be tough, as you've mentioned. But I think he's sneaky. I think he's very sneaky, too, at the right price.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the John Henry Turf Championship. You're going with Gold Phoenix, and why not? In the form he's in right now, it seems like he can do no wrong, and he's going to be running late.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a short price, but rightfully so in this spot. And my horse that I use in second here, Dan, is your top pick, Awfully Naughty. This is a horse, as we mentioned, has had some huge performances and maybe is sitting on a big race second off the layoff.
I just wonder if that last race was a little bit of a prep. Big early move, flattened out, think he'll be fitter. Now he has to deal with a horse like Gold Phoenix, but he showed he could step a little bit earlier this year. 7-2-8-1 for Ashley, 2-1-7-8 for me in the John Henry Turf Championship. Big afternoon of racing at Santa Anita on Sunday. Best of luck.